And so, how are you? In these times of considerable challenge, I thought I would avail myself of the resource of this technology and send you a little Thanksgiving message. A few thoughts. Came across a few things this week I thought I'd share with you that hopefully they'll be encouraging, maybe even a little bit challenging. They have to do, no surprise, with thanks and giving thanks. The writer Anne Lamott said there's really only three kinds of prayers. Please, wow, and thank you. The mystic Meister Eckhart narrowed this down and he said, if the only prayer we are to pray is thanks, that would be enough. I do believe that thanks and giving thanks is necessary for our souls. As it turns out, not only is it good for our souls, it's good for a lot of other parts of ourselves and our lives. The SALT Project reported that study after study shows the multiple benefits of giving thanks, from stronger relationships to sleeping better, to having lower blood pressure, fewer trips to the doctor, fewer depressive symptoms, more patience, more perseverance, and on it goes. There's so many benefits to being a thankful person and giving thanks. All that is enough to say one of Lamott's prayers, which is, wow. So it leads to the question, if giving thanks is so beneficial to us, why don't we do it more? Why do we wait till one time a year to offer thanks if it's offering so many of these benefits? Well, as it turns out, there are some reasons we tend to not offer thanks as often as is beneficial to us. And there's a couple of metaphors from the realm of psychology that psychologists has come up with that I'm going to share with you as to why we tend to not give thanks. The first is treadmills, and the second is headwinds and tailwinds. Let's start with the treadmill. The first reason, one of the first reasons why we tend to not give thanks more regularly is because of what's called the hedonic treadmill. And this is humans' tendency to get to a certain place of happiness. And then, even if we experience something much better or much worse, we'll tend to go back to that same level of happiness. And so it's sort of like that. Something's going on and something good happens to us, and then we're like, yay, I'm so happy this, and then it sort of becomes the new normal and we go back to our same level of happiness. Or if something bad happens to us and our furnace is not working, or we've been out in the woods for a long time, we're so excited to be able to come in and have running water, and then it becomes back to normal again. Sometimes when it's the best way to explain some of the things that are these elements is through comedy. And so here's a little clip. It's like a 3-minute clip from the comedian Louis C.K. that gets at the idea of the hedonic treadmill. So take a listen to Louis here as he's interviewed by Conan O'Brien.
It's a lot of trust back then, yeah.
Those were simpler times, I think. I just feel like we may be going back to that, by the way. But in a way, good, because when I read things like the foundations of capitalism are shattering, I'm like, maybe we need that. Maybe we need some time where we're walking around with a donkey with pots clanging on the sides.
You think that would just bring us back to reality?
Yeah, because everything is amazing right now, and nobody's happy. Like, in my lifetime, the changes in the world have been incredible. When I was a kid, we had a rotary phone. We had a phone that you had to stand next to, and you had to dial it.
Yes.
You realize how primitive? You're making sparks in a phone, and you actually would hate people with zeros in their numbers because it was more like, oh, this guy's got 2 zeros. Screw that guy. Why do I want to? Yeah. And then if they called and you weren't home, the phone would just ring lonely by itself. And then if you wanted money, you had to go in the bank for when it was open for like 3 hours. You had to stand in line, write yourself a check like an idiot. And then when you ran out of money, you just go, well, I can't do any more things now.
Right.
I can't do any more things.
That's it, yeah.
That was it. And even if you had a credit card, the guy would go, ugh, and he'd bring out this whole shunk, and he'd write,
Yes.
you'd have to call the president to see if you have any money. And
It's all
put in
true,
a
kids.
long
You had to
code.
call the president, yeah. It was ridiculous.
Yes.
Do you feel that we now, in the 21st century, we take technology for granted?
Well, yeah, because now we live in an amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots that don't care, because this is what people are like now. They got their phone, and they're like, it won't. Give it a second. It's going to space. Can you give it a second to get back from space? Is the speed of light too slow for you?
Yeah.
I was on an airplane, and there was internet, high-speed internet on the airplane. That's the newest thing that I know exists. And I'm sitting on the plane, and they go, open up your laptop. You can go on the internet. And it's fast, and I'm watching YouTube clips. I'm in an airplane. And then it breaks down. And they apologize. The internet's not working. The guy next to me goes, this is bull. Like, how quickly the world owes him something he knew existed only 10 seconds ago.
Right.
And on planes, flying is the worst one, because people come back from flights and they tell you their story. And it's like a horror story. They act like their flight was like a cattle car in the 40s in Germany. That's how bad they make it sound.
Right.
They're like, it was the worst day of my life. First of all, we didn't board for 20 minutes.
Right.
And then we get on the plane, and they made us sit there on the runway for 40 minutes. We had to sit there. Oh, really? What happened next? Did you fly through the air incredibly like a bird? Did you partake in the miracle of human flight, you non-contributing zero, that you got to fly? You're flying! It's amazing. Everybody on every plane should just constantly be going, oh my God! Wow!
Yes.
You're flying. You're sitting in a chair in the sky.
Yes. Yeah. That's right. Now, Louis.
But it doesn't go back a lot. and it's
Shares
not
a
really.
little.
You know, here's the thing. People they say there's delays on flights.
Yeah.
Delays, really? New York to California in 5 hours. That used to take 30 years to do that, and a bunch of you would die on the way there and have a baby. You'd be a whole different group of people by the time you got there. Now you watch a movie and you take a dump and you're home.
Yeah. Nicer way to say it than that, but yeah.
No.
Everything is awesome and nobody's happy. I know Louis C.K. has had some he's got some issues, but that, I think he is speaking some truth in that little clip there. We want it, we get it, we're happy, and then we forget it. And then we want something new in it. We want something new, some new it. On and we go on this hedonic treadmill. Where it stops, nobody knows. And this is the first reason for a hesitancy to express gratitude. We just kind of get used to it and assume it as the new normal. Now the second. I went for a run a few weeks ago, and I remember I started off in the run, and it was good for about a half mile, and then I turned onto the water ditch trail, and all of a sudden this wind was right in my face, and I was like, dang, I haven't even got warmed up yet, and now I've got this wind in my face. I was frustrated, I was irritated, and then I crossed 74th Street, and the wind seemed to disappear, and I was fine. Then for all the way down to South Park, I got down to the spike in the wheel, and I turned around and I started to run south on South Tacoma Way, and then it was back. The wind was in my face again. I was thinking, of all the times for the wind to be in my face, this is the hardest part, the end of the run, and here I am having to work harder to finish this. It's frustrating, it's irritating. Why is this world against me? Here's the thing. Was the wind only in my face? No, it was also at my back. And it was not hindering me, it was actually even helping me. And did I once pause to be thankful for the wind that was at my back? Did I once pause to appreciate that wind that was helping me out, making it easier for me to run? No. Why is this? And here's the second term. Headwind, tailwind, asymmetry. In this theory, it was named so by the researchers Tim Gilovich and Shai Davidi from Cornell University. It says that humans tend to overweight the headwinds in our life and underweight the tailwinds. In other words, we exaggerate the obstacles in our life and diminish our gifts, the gifts we're given in life. Now, it's fine to pay attention to the obstacles in our life. We need to notice them. We need to address them. We need to be able to name them. The problem is we tend to give more weight and focus and energy to those problems than we do to the gifts. And when we do this, it can lead to anger. It can lead to greater frustration. It can lead to even a higher level of bitterness as we only see the world as being against us. Now, on the flip side, if we're more able to focus on the tailwinds, then we tend to have more of a sense of good fortune, appreciation, and even joy. So you might ask, I want to do that. How can I be someone who gives equal weight to the tailwinds in my life as I do to the headwinds? How can we do that? Well, I'm glad you asked. Thank you for asking. The answer, which might come as no surprise, is by practicing gratitude. Now you say, hold on a second, Ken. You started this whole thing by naming how that we don't. How can we be more grateful, and why aren't we more grateful? And now you're telling us that the answer is to be more grateful. It sounds to me like circular reasoning. It sounds to me like you're saying, if you want to be grateful, be more grateful. I know it sounds like that, and it would be the case if not for the one word, practice. There are some things in our life that just don't necessarily come too naturally. What the headwind, tailwind asymmetry and the hedonic treadmill tell us is that giving thanks doesn't always come incredibly naturally. And when that's the case, when things don't come naturally, like playing the piano or reading, those aren't things that just come naturally to 99.9% of the world. When that's not the case, what do? We practice. And so, with gratitude, which there's a certain naturalness to it, we need to practice it to get better. So, you might say, okay, how do we practice gratitude? Well, there's lots of ways to do it. You can search. I've mentioned other ways before, but I'm just going to offer 3 this afternoon or morning, whenever you're watching this. And the first is this. One of the ways that we can practice gratitude to be a more grateful person is prayer. Any kind of prayer I think is great, but specifically there's a certain kind of prayer called the examen, or you can call it the examen. It's a prayer created by or made popular by St. Ignatius of Loyola hundreds of years ago. And this prayer is very simple. You simply take some time and think back to a few hours before. And you go through those few hours and you think about the things that you are thankful for. And I'm talking little stuff. So thank you for the toothpaste. Thank you for running water. Thank you for electricity. Thank you for the refrigerator that's running. Thank you for my ability to get up out of bed and walk into the bathroom. On and on. You get the idea. You just go through and thank for the little things. These are the tailwinds that we just get up in the morning and we just take for granted. Now, Loyola invited his followers to pray this prayer 3 times a day. If you want to do that, great, go for it. But maybe even just once, I think would make a considerable difference. Second is this. The second is thank you letters. I don't know if you're like me, you had a parent who was on you about writing some thank you letters because you'd forgotten to send it to Aunt Hazel, who gave you $5 for your birthday, and you felt frustrated by this. And it felt like an obligation. Well, as it turns out, when I would be asked to write a letter to my grandmother, I would be frustrated, and then I'd sit down and I'd write that letter. And by the end of it, I was really glad I did it, and my whole demeanor had changed, and I was glad I sent it. What if, instead of waiting for someone to do something like give a gift or whatnot, what if you just wrote a thank you letter to someone for something they didn't even necessarily know they gave you? What if maybe you took 52 envelopes and you decided to write one thank you letter a week? I guarantee you would not be disappointed in how you used that time. Incidentally, maybe not incidentally, after my grandmother died and my parents cleaned out a room, they found a stack of letters. And amongst those letters were probably all of the ones that I had written to her as thanks for the gifts that they gave us for Christmas and birthday. So that's the second thing I'd invite you to do. And then finally, come to the third thing, and that's this. My invitation is today, tomorrow, whenever it is to celebrate giving thanks. Whether you're by yourself, or you're with your family, or you're with a few more people, which be careful, I invite you to pause and to do what the day is for, to give thanks. Thanks for the folks there. Thanks for how you are. Thanks for the world we live in. And so, those are my three things. I invite you to go forth and enjoy the Thanksgiving. And I want to close by saying, Manitou, I'm thankful for you. You have made a world of difference in my life. And so, be blessed. Thanks.